The number of sexual assaults reported by military service members has gone up 8% in 2014. Details set for release today in a new anonymous survey suggest that the victims are now far more willing to come forward and seek help or even file complaints than they were in years past. Now, the official said that there were nearly 6,000 victims of reported assaults in 2014. That's compared with just over 5,500 last year. Some members of Congress say the Pentagon has still not done enough to combat sexual assault across the military and make it easier and more acceptable for victims to report harassment and assaults. On the KOGO News Live line is criminal defense lawyer and former U.S. Navy JAG Lieutenant Commander Brian Bouffard. Very, very nice talking to you. Tell us a little bit about this. You know, we have a huge military population here in San Diego, so this is definitely of interest of some of our locals.
Oh, sure, and I was stationed out there for 5 years, so I'm well familiar with that. But, you know, essentially we have had a sexual assault emphasis over the past several years, and in my opinion, I mean, I'm very well plugged into the military justice system. I practice in it all the time, and we're doing a very good job encouraging people to make reports if they feel that they've been victimized, to reduce, you know, retaliation, to just basically try to address what you know, you would see elsewhere in society and on college campuses as just kind of, you know, rude and dumb behavior on the part of certain people doing bad things.
Well, is the military justice system, as you see it, is it broken in this regard? Well,
yes, it is, and I'm going in a different direction than probably the one that you're thinking I'm going in. It's broken because as a result of this emphasis, we now incentivize false reporting. In other words, all the military wants to see are more reports. And what they're not doing is they're not doing an effective job, and in some cases no job at all, to try to look past just the bare allegation and determine whether or not a crime actually did or did not take place. And that's a real problem.
Now, this seems to be a kind of a pendulum thing, because for the longest time, people who had reported sexual assaults, and I'm talking about men and women, they were treated as though they were the bad guy in this situation. And now we've got this, as you say, pendulum swinging the other side, where it seems like they just want reports. When does it go back to the middle and become fair for everyone?
Well, I'm hoping that happens, LaDonna, and unfortunately I'm not really seeing that yet. In fact, I just opened my email to get a glimpse of the new National Defense Authorization Act that's coming out. It has a lot of changes to military justice, and every one of them is not every single one of them militates against the interests of the accused. Somebody who's been accused of a crime, that's the person who has constitutional rights, and it seems that the government wants to do everything it can to try to curtail those rights, and that's another big problem. It's kind of a perfect storm.
We are talking to criminal defense lawyer and former U.S. Navy JAG Lieutenant Commander Brian Bouffard. And, you know, can we ask you, do commanders, can they be trusted to police their own troops, or is having an unblemished record more important to them?
Well, that's a great question. It's a loaded question, but it's a great question. And unfortunately, careerism kind of infects a lot of people, whether they're in the military or out of the military. And unfortunately, you have to just continue to hope that we are putting men and women of integrity and moral courage in those positions so that they will make decisions based on what the facts are and where the evidence leads them, and not where their biases are or, you know, their concerns for being promoted. I can tell you, I mean, I've represented a lot of people who, you know, thank goodness, have been found not guilty of bad, bogus allegations, but just running them through that ringer for no reason sometimes, to me, is just unconscionable.
So, since you have been in this system for the longest time, when a sexual assault is reported, what do you think needs to happen first that you don't think is happening right now?
Well, you know, you hear the mantra, believe the victim, okay? And to an extent, I mean, I understand that. Obviously, somebody is saying, hey, something happened, none of you were around, so I'm calling the police, I'm telling you, you know, this happened. You have to take it seriously. And I'm not saying to blow it off and ignore it by any stretch. You have to take it seriously. But taking it seriously means looking at all the facts and looking at things from every angle, and not just starting off assuming that, number one, a sexual assault took place, and number two, the person that the alleged victim is pointing at is the one who did it. Because when you hear about, when most people hear the word rape, they think about somebody hiding in the bushes and jumping out and committing a violent assault on a stranger. But the facts in the military, the paradigm case is two people go out having a good time, they get completely drunk, their judgment is poor, they go back, they have a sexual encounter, and then the next morning one party regrets it. And we are incentivizing that party to say, well, I regret what happened last night, therefore I was raped. And that's wrong.
All right, criminal defense lawyer and former U.S. Navy JAG Lieutenant Commander Brian Bouffard, thank you for joining us on the KOGO News Live Line.